Hello, everybody, and welcome to this latest edition of the Rewatch Project with Hannah and Mike. I am Mike, and with me, as always, is Hannah. How are you this evening?
I'm better than I was last weekend. Yay for recurring back problems.
Yes. One step up, two steps back. Oh, my goodness.
I'm fine. I just had a wee setback.
Relapse.
Just ended up having to lie down for a weekend, basically.
Yeah.
And thank goodness I've got the best physio ever who jabbed me with acupuncture needles and TENS machined me and all kinds of things.
Did that magic.
Thankfully, eased everything off again.
Wonderful. So we are back. We're watching Babylon 5. We have reached the 11th episode of Season 2. Hannah, tell us about the episode we're watching tonight.
Okie dokie. This episode is called All Alone in the Night. The synopsis says, while investigating strange readings on a Starfury patrol, Sheridan is kidnapped by aliens. General Hague makes an unofficial visit to the station. Delenn is called before the Grey Council in response to her recent transformation.
Alrighty, multiple plot lines.
It is directed by Mario DeLeo and written by JMS.
It's a J, a Michael Straczynski. Okay, well, before we get to that, just a quick reminder that we appreciate feedback. You can send us emails at rewatchprojectpodcast@gmail.com. Alternatively, you can just leave comments here on the channel. Also, check out our friend shows, including Chinstroker versus Panther, The Good, the Bad, and the Odd, Talk Without Rhythm, and Film Bastards. And also check out the other content, the film, TV, music, and general pop culture related goodness that cohabits on our YouTube channel. Also, if you do watch the podcast on YouTube, just know that it is also available as a podcast. So if you want to listen to it whilst you're mowing the lawn or doing your commute
Or just don't want to see our faces.
Yeah. Or just want to. We're not going to tell you how to live your life. But yes, so you can do that. You can find us on Spotify and on your general podcatchers. And likes and subscribes very much appreciated, as are 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. That really helps people find the channel and results in more feedback. And that is a big motivator for doing these more often. Last but not least, we very much appreciate donations via PayPal, if and only if you can afford to do so without causing yourself any financial hardship. Hannah, do we have any feedback?
We sure do.
Alrighty.
Let's go with the YouTube comments first.
Okay.
And all of them are from our expert feedbacker, the coolest of cool
he's
daddies.
back. I was worried.
He's back.
You have to be worried,
In
cool
fact,
daddy.
one of his comments is, oh my God, I didn't comment on the last video. I feel like a slacker bum. I'll try to overcompensate on this one.
Excellent. Please overcompensate away. We'd appreciate it.
Okay, he says, rule number 1, nobody dies, punishable by death.
Yes.
He also says, this is a standalone episode, but it gives us the history.
Is this about Gropos?
Yes, sorry, this is about Gropos.
Okay.
This is a standalone episode, but it gives us the history of Stephen during the Minbari War, how he defied Earth Force by refusing to hand over his notes. That event informs not only Stephen but his dad's character and makes their interactions weightier.
Yeah, it does.
Even if the general doesn't factor into the overarching plot, how he felt about his son, both positively for standing on principle and negatively for going against his military culture, gives this one off a much richer backstory and depth.
It does. I agree.
I agree with that. It definitely does give it
And it's
gravitas.
funny, I've noticed, because I always promote these episodes on various Babylon 5 Facebook pages. So it's feedback, not necessarily on our episodes. People tend to talk more about the episode we're covering. And it's a relative. Apparently, a lot of people think Gropos is like the worst episode of the show.
Really?
And I just can't get that. I can see why somebody might think it was mediocre or a bit cliche, but that seems a bit hysterical to me.
I think that's a bit harsh.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just simply incorrect. There's way worse episodes.
Sorry, I just locked my phone. Okay. He goes on to say, I like the pair of Gropos that bunked with Poochie. The episode does a good job of making you care for what is essentially a couple of turkeys in late November.
I mean, they're only in, I think, 2 scenes.
Yeah, but he's right. They are a couple of turkeys. They're
days are numbered.
Classic red shirts.
Yeah.
He says, happy to hear you've been doing some stargazing. If someone here hasn't gone to their local observatory to see Saturn or Jupiter through the telescope, it's worth it.
Yeah, it's a real it's like, looking at the Grand Canyon or something. I think most people, I know it's not for everyone. I get that, like any hobby. But I find it hard to believe that anybody can look at Jupiter or Saturn through the telescope. Because when you're looking for a telescope, you can see that they're a planet. And that's a really affecting thing. One of the wisest things I've ever heard said about the night sky came from, and I really hate to say this, from Joe Rogan, of all people. And he said that basically, if the night sky was covered and there was just one place in the world you could go to and there was a little window that you could look out of to see the night sky, people would travel thousands of miles to go and do that. But because it's here, we just take it for granted.
Yeah.
But it's
you take anything for granted until you don't have it anymore.
Well, yeah, but I mean, really, when you go out and look at the night sky and you think about what you're actually looking at for just a few seconds, your mind should be absolutely blown by that, And you can take anything for granted, I guess. That's the moral, isn't it?
He also says, so glad to hear your back is progressing in the right direction, Hannah. Well,
I suppose it is, technically.
Well, yes. And I mean, I'd have to say it bounced back quicker than I was
But it is ironic that since we said that on the last episode,
I hurt my back.
You've had your first bad back episode in a while.
The most ridiculous thing as well is that I literally did nothing to exacerbate anything. I stood up from sitting.
It's like
on
a
the edge of our
landmine,
bed.
isn't it? These things, they just sit there waiting.
I think it was my body's way of telling me to have a rest for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And his last comment says the B5 bump is real. I think he's talking about in the email that we got from somebody saying when we
get to a certain point. Yeah.
Many a reaction channel has reaped the benefits of diving into JMS's masterpiece on their channel.
Yeah.
Wow, bring it on.
Yeah. Particularly if we can maintain consistency of releases. That's a big thing.
Thank you so much, Cool Daddy.
Great
Your
to have you
feedback
back,
is always welcome.
Sure is.
We miss you when we don't hear from you.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We don't take you for granted like the night sky.
We definitely don't. And this feedback is from Mark. So let's see what Marky Boy has to say.
Hi Mike, hi Hannah, it is I, Mark.
It is I.
Thought I'd leave you some feedback about Gropos. I know it hasn't been long since the last bit of feedback, but I really like this episode and I wanted to
good on you.
Jot down a few thoughts about it. I'm not going to, from my usual spiel of what we're up to, we'll just get to it because it wasn't that long since the last time I posted. Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. You guys talked about it like it was kind of incidental to the main thing, and I kind of see that. However, to me, this gives you the feeling that the galaxy is gearing up to war. War is coming in a sort of Lord of the Rings kind of vibe. War is coming, and we're seeing the results of that. I thought this episode worked really well, actually, in many respects. The whole Space Marine thing, you did touch on a few things like aliens. It made me think of a couple of things watching it from the 90s. Starship Troopers definitely gave me a Starship Troopers kind of vibe in many respects. The other thing it reminded me of was this show I'm pretty sure Mike knows
Space Above and Beyond.
Space Above and Beyond, a 90s action show.
Can't believe I didn't mention that.
By some of the sort of creatives involved with the X-Files about grunt. It's a kind of a bit Starship Troopers. It's about grunts who also sometimes are pilots. It's a bit confused in that sense. Fighting an alien race. It kind of almost borrows from a previous older series called UFO in some respects. That's more about Earth Defense Forces, whereas Space Above and Beyond is fighting on other planets and stuff like that. And in some ways, it feels almost like a bit of a precursor to the pre-story for Firefly, though that was humans versus humans in that war. Space Above and Beyond is definitely fighting humanoid aliens kind of thing. Yeah, so it made me think of those things, and I kind of dug that. One other thing I will mention, I thought Dodger was really good in it. In fact, I think all of the sort of guest stars, Ken Forey was awesome, for example. The woman playing Dodger, I really liked her. Weirdly, when she first appears on screen, we see her front on, face on, because she's putting her hand in like a wrist sort of ID thing. And I thought, is that Marina Sirtis. But when you see her not face on, she doesn't look like her at all. But for that brief second, I thought, what the hell? It got me going from that respect. Yeah, and there's also a kind of tie-in with Starship Troopers in that I believe the guy playing the General, Franklin, was in RoboCop. So, that's Paul Verhoeven, who went on to make Starship Troopers. I was half expecting Clancy Brown to turn up and shout at the grunts at some point in these episodes. I also really appreciated the fist fights looked proper brutal. They weren't like your usual Star Trek throwing someone around and hitting them with a balsa wood chair kind of thing. It looked like it was hurting to me. And I appreciated that very much. I really like this episode, just sort of let you know. Pretty psyched to watch more. But yeah. That's from me. All right then. Bye guys. Be seeing you.
Be seeing you. Thanks, Mark.
Happy Easter, Mark, and thank you so much for your feedback. It's really nice to hear your feedback because you haven't seen it before and really see the episodes that like hit really well for you, because you can forget those things from the first time you've watched them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think when we are feeding back, it's tempered by, is it as good as I remember, or is that nostalgia? So it's a really fresh take from Mark, because this is literally
not knowing
the
where it's
first
going
one.
as well. That's the thing. It's
Yeah,
hard
we
to
know
judge
what's to come.
what a big episode is, because you're not aware of those consequences yet. But Space Above and Beyond's a good shout. That was a show. It was made by Glenn Morgan and James Wong, who are two of the head writers on the X-Files. They left the X-Files to do that show. They ended up, and it got cancelled, and they ended up coming back to the X-Files. But then there were showrunners on Millennium. But they famously went on. They created the Final Destination series. They wrote the film Final Destination, and that was there.
Did they write all of them?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. But I mean, they created, because the first Final Destination was an X-Files script.
Yeah, I can imagine
it was
that.
going to be
Yeah.
Mulder and Scully were discovered that the death was after these people. But it got rejected. It got rejected as a script, and they were like, okay, and they just developed it on its own as a film. But it was an X-Files. And I mean, that's pretty validating, isn't it?
Hell yeah.
Having a rejected script turn into like a huge film franchise.
Huge franchise, yeah.
But yeah,
I don't
Space
think I've
Marine.
ever been able to drive a car behind a log truck.
No, I still can't do that. But no, good shouts. Okay, all right. Well, thank you for your feedback, fellows. And do check out the Good, the Bad, and the Odd, Mark's rather wonderful podcast.
Indeed.
And we're going to hit pause. We're going to watch All Alone in the Night, the 11th episode of season 2 of Babylon 5. And then we'll come back and we will tell you exactly what we thought of said episode. So back in a moment. Okay, so we have just watched All Alone in the Night, the 11th episode of Season 2 of Babylon 5. Before we get into the episode breakdown, Hannah, any initial thoughts?
I really like this episode in kind of I mean, there's nothing huge in it. Well, no, that's wrong. There are huge things in it. But like the alien, you don't really see the alien threat, they...
Oh, that I mean, that storyline's pure standalone, but everything sort of surround. I mean, the General Hague storyline and the Delenn storyline are both seismic.
Huge, yeah. But I quite like the fact that the main alien threat in it is really inconsequential. It's kind of just some shitheel race that's decided to do a bit of a recce on how to...
Well, I like the fact that the implication is that they're classic UFO aliens. Like, they abduct people.
Oh, yeah.
And when you see one, it's a grey.
Yeah.
It's a classic cow mutilations, crop circles, classic alien.
Yeah.
So that's the implication, is that Sheridan's abducted by aliens in the X-Files Close Encounters sense.
Yeah. But I like that because it gives you space to focus on all of the other far more serious parts around the episode. Like you say, General Hague, Delenn going to the Grey Council, the implications of what they are all talking about, and kind of following on from Mark's voicemail, war is coming, everything's ramping up. It's getting more sort of spoken about where the threat's coming from, and gathering your forces, working out what they're going to have to do.
Yeah.
And to have a main threat that wasn't terribly, scary, it gave the episode a chance to spend time with all those other things. I thought Linnea was fabulous in this episode. I love him.
Good point.
It was so lovely to see that he really is a good guy and loyal and thoughtful, and Delenn can count on him, which is wonderful.
He's committed now, isn't he?
Yeah, and kind of one thing I thought was really, really useful was the way Delenn kind of maps out how the Grey Council should be broken up.
Well, it's meant to be completely balanced. It's
warrior
thirds,
caste, religious caste, worker class.
Well, everything about Minbari culture is about threes.
Yeah.
Three groups of threes, three castes.
Well, it is the magic number.
Their symbol is the triangle.
It was an episode that had a little bit of exposition without realising you're getting exposition.
Yes.
What about you?
Yeah, I really liked it. It's interesting because in some ways this episode is kind of an evolution of the storytelling of the show, because in some ways, I mean, you're right, it's a standalone in the sense that the main storyline, the peril of the week that befalls our lead character, is a standalone thing. But
it's almost a Star Trek level kind of alien threat.
Yeah, but the reason I say it's an evolution of the storytelling is that this is the first time that we've seen really crucial information in an episode that's partially a standalone. Because usually what will happen is you'll have an episode that isn't a standalone, or you'll have an episode that is, with maybe a little bit of stuff sprinkled in, a little bit of development. But this is the first time that we've seen an episode written by JMS that really majorly advances the storyline. So the discovery that essentially Sheridan is part of a counter-coup conspiracy and has been the whole time is a huge revelation.
Yep.
And him bringing the senior staff in and then basically agreeing to work against Earth, and Delenn getting thrown off the council, and the realisation that the warrior caste are making a play and are rattling the saber are really big story
it's a
elements.
Power play, isn't it?
Yeah, but they're kind of subplots in a standalone episode. So I think what that's saying is I think the show's got to the point now where there isn't really a distinction.
No, absolutely.
That it's not going to be standalone episode, mythology episode. I think there'll be episodes that are weighted differently.
Yeah.
But I think that what this signals to me is that the show has now evolved to the point where it's all the same.
I think also at this point, if you're trying, it would be hard to come into it having not seen everything that's happened till now. Whereas maybe within season one, you could have got away with having not watched.
Yeah, because TV shows back then, they were always about the concept, and they had to have a hook so you could explain what the show was. I remember seeing an interview with Chris Carter, and how the first two episodes of the X-Files are both alien conspiracy ones, and he said that the show really didn't take off with the network until the first standalone episode, the one about tombs, Squeeze, which was the first standalone, because he said at that point the network were like, oh, okay, so that's the show. The show is every week there's a supernatural case. They're like, okay, that we understand. That's a language we can speak. And right into the 2000s, it's like if you look at shows like Angel, for example, the spin-off of Buffy, it wasn't enough that he was a vampire. He had to be a vampire detective.
Yeah.
Shows have to have a thing that they are. And Babylon 5's thing was Casablanca in space. It was this port of call, home away from home, you know.
Yeah.
And the idea was that it was this place where aliens would get together and people would come to it, and the guest star of the week would bring adventure and mystery and danger and romance and all this sort of stuff too. And that was the show. That's kind of not the show anymore.
No.
You know, so it's very much like the best example of that is Star Trek. Each week they go to a new planet and explore. They go to a strange new world. You know, there's your concept. And then if you look at, you know, CSI or, you know, those shows, it's just there's a crime of the week. And I think that this episode really signifies that the show now is essentially just a saga.
Yeah.
You know, but I really like this one. I like the fact that I like any time we get to spend time with the Minbari. I mean, I love the like elvish culture in Babylon in Lord of the Rings. So this is kind of the same thing. I like all the conspiracy kind of fighting back, realizing, you know, all the Machiavellian stuff around Earth. I love all that kind of stuff. And the thing I like about the stuff with Sheridan is there's one element of that storyline that will come back. I'm not going to spoiler it. But I like the fact that this is the first time that we've kind of seen Sheridan have his ass kicked. It's nice to see him get a little bit beaten up.
Yeah.
It makes him feel more like a classic action adventure heroic figure like Indiana Jones or somebody like that.
It's also nice to see how he reacted to it. Like he didn't, like his classic main guy, he doesn't leave anybody else behind. He's there to, you know, save the day.
I mean, he's largely been an administrative figure so far.
Yeah.
So it was quite nice to see him get a bit roughed up. And I like this idea as well, that I think there's quite good thematic cohesion. Like the fact that this episode is called All Alone in the Night. The most obvious thing is him on the ship out there, but you've also got Delenn, who is alone.
Yeah.
You know, like we see that
and she says it's the first time she's felt alone.
Yeah, and you see all the lights go out the Grey Council, and she's left there on her own in the in that. But you've also got the good guys kind of fighting back against this conspiracy, and they're a group of people, but they're alone. They're stuck there as well. So I feel like all three storylines in this were kind of exploring the same theme in some ways. And also I think it was very well performed as well. I mean, Mira Furlan's a great actor, and it's really, I love seeing her getting to do her kind of sad, righteous indignation thing that she does really well. You know, where she's like talking about how her
she has.
Yeah, she'll talk about her
amazing.
when she talks about her heart. My heart doesn't feel this.
My
you know?
heart hasn't changed.
Yeah, you really believe it.
Yeah.
And then, like you say, her being grouped with Lanier as well, and his kind of sincerity as well, really works.
It's almost like they're showing you the good guys, like pointing them out in each different scenario. Like, these are the good guys. These are the guys that you can rely on and trust. And these are, you know, you say about Machiavelli plots, they're showing you that concept in Earth and in Minbari, and we already know it in terms of Centauri and Narn.
Yeah.
So they're really sort of kind of, without kind of going, look, that's the bad guy, or having an arrow pointing bad. They're doing it clearly and concisely so that you can follow easily. You know, these people are out for good, these are out for bad, without it being dumb.
Yeah.
It's one thing I've always liked about Babylon 5. Equal parts of, I haven't had to work too hard to understand what's going on.
No, you just got to engage with it. That's the thing.
But also, it hasn't been like step-by-step instructions, you know, obvious plot line.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's still intelligent and interesting, and there are twists and plot reveals and all kinds of stuff, but it doesn't tie you up in knots at the same time. And I think this is a really good example of that. Also,
the show's record of having really fun, interesting guest actors continues as well. You got Robert Foxworth, you know, most well known, probably then for Falcon Crest, you know, And also, but he was a big genre guy. I mean, he was doing Deep Space Nine at the same time as this. Hannah and I are rewatching Deep Space Nine. We're about to get to the episodes where he comes into this as well. But should we get into a bit of a breakdown? I've got a few points here, but I feel like we've covered it off pretty well, actually. So Delenn learns that the new leader, they've got a new leader, wants to recall her, and she talks about how she feels alone. We hear about weird reports as well. And I think one of the things that they're also doing a lot really well here, and this is something that jumps out on Rewatch, is, I've got to be careful what I say here because I don't want to spoil it, but we've got this Mystery Race in the larger storyline, these big kind of spider creatures that have this connection to Mr. Morden and Londo. And at this point in the show, we don't know that much about them. And I think that they're having fun, not doing fake outs, but knowing that the audience... See, when you hear about these reports, you're kind of like, is it that? Is it connected? You know, and you're kind of learning it. So, of course, when you're doing a rewatch, you know that it isn't. But I think that that's something that's probably worth remembering for us as people who are, rewatching it. I also like the idea that Sheridan or anyone in his position will lose their flight pay if they don't get a certain amount of flight hours in. And that sounds like something that would be real.
Yeah.
There's a kind of real verisimilitude, if you will, to that. I like the fact that he says what could go wrong. I'm really surprised that they didn't cut back to Ivanova and have her say something kind of, you had to say it. That
or
feels
you're
like
definitely not Russian.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like there was, I don't know whether maybe it's a time thing.
There was a beat missing.
Yeah. I like Ramirez, Dead Meat. He's pretty much I'll call her when I get back. It's weird, though, that they cast that guy he's such a small role, because he's been in loads of things. He was in the original, he's one of the leads in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. He cropped up, quite a lot of stuff. So I was surprised to see him sort of come and go so quickly. I like the fact that Ivanova's really annoyed that Sheridan didn't tell her that this general was coming. She's lucky to break a protocol, and he kind of hand waves it, but she's not having it.
No, and she's following orders and stuff, but she's pissed off about it.
Yeah.
And rightly so. I mean, she is under the impression they have a close working relationship, so it's a bit of a betrayal. Did
you recognise the really stiff upper-lipped British Minbari who first speaks to Delenn, who's like, "We'll call you to the council," that guy? Do you recognise him?
I didn't look hard enough.
It's an actor called Robin Sachs. He played Ethan Rayne in Buffy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's been in, and he played one of the lead.
The fancy dress shop.
Yeah. And he played one of the lead aliens villain in Galaxy Quest as well. He's a great kind of genre actor. And so Sheridan awakes on the ship. Also, I love the design of the Grey Council. The idea that they've got this ship and it's always on the ship and it's always moving, and they've got these spotlights. And I think that it's a great example of low budget working well, working in a really stark, just wonderful graphic kind of way. I just think that that's a really simple aesthetic. And I think if they had all the money in the world, they'd probably have just overcooked it.
Well, that's the whole saying of necessity breeds invention.
Yeah.
Sometimes money gets in the way of a good idea.
Yeah. So Delenn is no longer Satai. They're still debating her Babylon 5 status. Sheridan fights an alien and befriends Anan. Delenn talks to the council about how important it is that their two sides need to unite.
Yeah.
This is something that we've heard about a few times.
And basically, what it's highlighting is Minbari are having the same issue that Earth are having, in that you've got this faction.
They want to be isolationist.
The warrior caste, who don't want any aliens among them and think that they're the superior ones and it should be them or nobody and da-da-da.
And it's happening everywhere. It's happening with the Centauri.
Well, and then you've got this Earth group who are...
the Home
being
Guard,
like little terrorists. Yeah, the Home Front.
It's like there's something in the air in the galaxy. There's a real sense.
Totally not like real life.
No. But again, you would it almost feels like something's manipulating. You know, there's a sense of that going on here. Some larger force. So what we learn about these aliens basically is that they're, like I say, they're classic aliens. Delenn tries to give Lanier an out, but he refuses to take it. And she remembers that he would not look up. And she says, even when you were looking up, you were looking down. And she says that she'll be going into darkness and fire. We get the Agamemnon again, which was Sheridan's ship.
Yep.
He has a weird dream, a very Lynchian dream.
That's exactly what I thought too.
And it's as what you see Ivanova with a dark bird on her shoulder, and you see Garibaldi with a white bird on his shoulder. So there's a dark and light, evil, light and shadows calling to him, fighting for his attention.
You've always been here.
Yeah, there's some symbolic thing happening there that I'm sure will get explored again. And he says, "Do you know who I am? Who I am? The man in between is searching for you. You are the hand." And Kosh says, we were never away. Delenn helps out. I like it when Delenn gets all kind of like, don't mess with them in Minbari.
Yeah.
Like, they're spiritual people, but they will cut you.
They'll cut a bitch.
Yeah, they will. Kosh sees Sheridan in reality and reiterates what he says as well. And this is where we get the stuff with Hague and Sheridan. They can talk freely. He puts on like a sort of anti-bugging device so they can speak. He's like, I've been waiting here 6 months to be debriefed. So you realise that essentially, on some level, he's a spy.
Yeah.
And he talks about you have to be careful. You can bring your staff in. We're going to take back our government. And Sheridan lays it out to them, and they just immediately agree. One thing I did forget, right at the beginning, was it was really nice to see a different side to Stephen when he's talking sports.
Oh, yeah.
With that guy. And he's getting really kind of mouthy and kind of... and I just think, as silly as it sounds to have a little moment, I think it's nice that JMS, because he wrote this episode, sometimes gives the characters an extra shade, often by letting them kind of let their hair down a little bit.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a nice touch. Any final thoughts, Hannah, before we wrap up?
No, I was just thoroughly enjoyed it. Ready for the next one.
Alrighty. Well, whilst you look at what the next one is, just a quick reminder that we appreciate feedback. Rewatch Project podcast@gmail.com. Alternatively, you can leave comments right here on the channel. Donations via PayPal, very much appreciated if you can afford to do so without causing yourself any financial hardship. And check out the other film, TV, music, and general pop culture related goodness that cohabits this here channel. What are we talking about next time, Hannah?
The next episode is called Acts of Sacrifice. The synopsis says, Jakar asks Sheridan and Delenn for help from their respective governments in the Narn Centauri War, which the Narn are losing. Ivanova shows a representative from a new species around the station. It is directed by Jim Johnston and written by JMS.
Alrighty, so we'll see you back for that very soon. Goodbye, everybody.
Take care.